I want to go to Kimberly Dvorak, award-winning national security, border security, investigative reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. She is the senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. Are you listening to those three words, Joe? Responsible foreign policy. Well, she's a TV correspondent for CW6 News San Diego, One America News Network, and her website is thekdreport.com. Hello, Kimberly. How are you?
You're out of breath already.
Yeah, I was running around. You know, for some reason, for my guest numbers, and I usually don't admit these mistakes, but I listed the next guest twice. And your number was under. Anyway, I don't know what's going on here.
It's okay.
I'm going to go to the eye doctor.
There you go.
Well, I'll tell you. Did you want to talk about a very important event that you had just recently, and then we'll get into Afghanistan?
Yeah, well, it kind of dovetails in with the debacle that's taking place in Afghanistan. I went to a funeral last week of a friend of mine, Kevin Secor, who served as a Marine for nearly 30 years and then dedicated the rest of his career up until about 6 weeks before he passed away to the VA, working for the government and trying to help veterans. This is a man who was a well-liked individual. Retired General Pace, who was in attendance. There was Medal of Honor recipient there, and other generals as well. He was someone that dedicated his entire life to helping others and serving this country. And why I say this dovetails into what's going on in Afghanistan is Americans looking at the screen, young people maybe in high school looking at what's going on the screen or on their social media pages. Are they going to want to sign up and take and guard this country, serve this country? The guys like Kevin that we have seen pass away and retire, we're not going to get those quality guys if we continue with this type of indoctrination to our troops, A, and B, just knowing that the U.S. government, even though the politician sends everybody off to war, they're not going to have your back, and they don't even have your back when you come back if you're injured as well. They're better at it under Trump. They did get better, but there's still extraordinary hurdles, and they're still committing suicides to the tune of 20 to 30 a day. So that I wanted to start the show with.
Yep, and I'll tell you, sounds like somebody got somebody's number, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's my son. I think he's on top of Whitney. He climbed Whitney today. I'll take it at the break. I'll call him back.
Yeah, there you go. All right. And the whole thing about, I'll tell you, if you're asleep at the wheel, listener, any of you, and you don't know what's going on with our military, and especially recruitment, the number one thing now is woke and critical race theory. That's the number one thing. And then I think the second biggest existential threat we've got, according to the Pentagon, is global warming is coming back again, boy, we got to do something about that. So how in the world are you going to land on the beaches at Normandy and win World War II with an attitude and a thinking like that? It is dumbed down. To me, it's almost like, if you wanted to plant a spy in your country so that the other country could figure out what was going on and defeat you, that's a real good start. Let's just worry about the woke and your sexual preference and all this before you think about even learning how to march or carry a gun. A gun, wait a minute. We want to get rid of guns. Yes, boy, I'm telling you. Yeah. It is
very sad.
Terrible. And like you say, they're not going to run down there and volunteer.
No. No, we're just not going to see the quality. Of course, there's going to be a number of people. And when we're talking about, the things that are going wrong within the military, we're not talking the rank and file whatsoever. We're talking about the military brass and the political leaders who are not necessarily elected, like, the Secretary of State or the Secretary of the Defense. These people are not elected by the United States citizens. So they're the ones creating this policy that's, in fact, hurting our troops. Yep.
Political favorites. That's what'll kill us. And speaking of a military funeral, one of the most respected and amazing things you'll ever see in your life, talking about having it all together. Yeah. We're going to be back and more from Kimberly Dvorak and her report on the fall of Afghanistan. Be right back. Hey, Kimberly, I was trying to find out, you're not streaming live on Facebook still, right?
No, I am streaming live, and I just want to say this. I just got a phone call from my son who summited the tallest mountain in the lower 48. They made it up there about an hour and a half early, and I just saw he did FaceTime and he showed me the picture on top of Mount Whitney. An unbelievably beautiful sight. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I broke my ankle, but anyways, there's always next year. So I'm a happy and proud mama right now.
I gotta let the listeners know and give them an update. Number one, Mount Whitney is a beautiful sight even when it's way off. Okay, you got unbelievable. But you broke your ankle, but how many times have you broken hearts? You know, that's the... You're never going to catch that.
Well, let me count the ways.
You know, you can write it down in your diary or whatever, or in your memories, you know, that he did that, a great accomplishment. And then you can say, and at the same time, the United States loses its first major battle.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
It's terrible.
Very, very sad what's going on over there right now.
1979, that was when it all started, right, with the Islamic Revolution?
Yeah, well, I think watching a lot of the mainstream media's coverage on this, they tried to make the comparison of the fall of Saigon and the military getting everybody out via helicopters. It's much more like what happened in Iran, where we had the embassy that was run over and the Iranians went in and took hostages and held them for 444 days. Because what you have in Afghanistan is we had a $1 billion embassy sitting there in Kabul, and now they're working out of a crummy regional airport and outside Kabul, and that's the new embassy. And now the U.S. flag is no longer flying over that embassy. There are a lot of questions. Why didn't they at least keep Bagram base? Because that base could handle any kind of airplane, jet, whatever they needed to land. It was state of the art. This is where we would launch drones from that, throughout the region if they needed to, lend air support to the Afghan National Army, which kind of has fallen apart. But if you know what the Taliban does to people, you know why they weren't fighting, because they'll lop your head off. So it wasn't a stretch. And the second this thing started to fall apart was when the U.S. President Biden decided there would be no more air support. And then military leaders on the ground said, well, it's going to be probably a couple of months before this happens. And as we know, it was just a little over a week until the entire country fell. Now,
let me ask you real quick. You talk about that airport that we built, state of the art. And I know in your report you talk about how we spent billions of dollars to build it. And then we go back to whatever it is, the city airport. Say, yeah, we'll use that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is there so much hanky-panky going on and dealing with special deals in Congress, and people that are making money off the sales of arms and weapons and airplanes and tires and gasoline? I mean, is that what is running the whole situation? Is who's getting all the money, and let's make sure they're happy and forget about what's going on over there?
Yeah, there were actually two points to make on that question there. The first being back in 2011, Rand Paul, his father, in his last term as congressman, he came out in the well of Congress and said that we need to get out of Afghanistan. Taliban's are going to take over. It doesn't matter if we're here for a year, 10 years, or another 20 years. The Afghan army will not be in control, and the Taliban will regain control of that country. He was proved right. Back in 2014, I wrote an article referencing a national security intel report they put out yearly, and that predicted failure in Afghanistan, and that the Taliban would come back in power. And then over the years, you and I have made this, we've talked about this over and over, that it doesn't matter how long we're there. And it's not that the Afghans did not want to fight for their country. They just knew that if they fought without air support, they were going to get killed. Their families were going to get killed. And so we need to put that out there. But on top of that, you had congressmen and presidents that were eager to stay in Afghanistan as long as possible, because that would keep the spending within the military-industrial complex flowing, which it did. And Lordy, there were 11,000 Americans in Afghanistan. A lot of those guys are defense contractors, and a lot of them are providing security as well. So what happened? Who was making all the money out of here? And then, of course, the Afghan government was extraordinarily, corrupt.
Well, Kimberly, when all of this started now, just, over the weekend and things, remember when Trump sent that big bomb? I think it had special letters that meant, it's the bad bomb or something.
Yeah.
But we didn't do anything, did we? We
No.
just said, "Ooh, look, here they come. Yeah, you guys back up. I can just almost hear it, like that. That's the two words you don't like to use if you're in the military, back up.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, the Taliban was always prepared to wait. They had time. They had nothing but time. And the American people wanted to get out of Afghanistan for a long time, and I was one of those people. But the difference here is how you get out of Afghanistan. And you don't get out of Afghanistan at the height of the fighting season. The Taliban and other terrorists, they have what they call the fighting season, and that's, spring through October-ish, depending on the weather. Then they don't fight. They hibernate for the winter. So why wouldn't we wait until after October? Or if the President Biden decided we're going to get out of there, then why not quietly just start getting 200 people, 300 people on different flights out every day, kind of quietly. That way it wouldn't have turned into the chaotic scene that we're seeing on our TV screens. And, the latest, of course, is the seeing that the Taliban's not holding true to their word. Shocker. They're not holding their word that they're going to allow people get to the airport safely.
We had our fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to do it. That's what the National Security Advisors told the American people yesterday. They talked to the Taliban, and they gave assurances that they were going to let people get to the airport safely. So we've told all of our Americans that are inside to go ahead, drive over to the airport. Taliban said it's going to be good. And of course, we see the pictures this morning where that's not the case. They're beating people up, taking people away, which presumably they'll throw them in jail or kill them or both. So it's just, it's very sad to see what's going on in that country right now, because it's being so mismanaged on this exit out the door. And leaving the 2,000 troops there probably wasn't a big deal. I don't think many people really would have a problem with that if they're up there at Bagram and they're at the state-of-the-art base where you can do secure comms, and they could actually provide air cover if Al Qaeda decides that they want to get onto a plane and they're going to fly towards America. There are things this country could have done, and this administration bungled. We shouldn't be surprised by that, but they bungled this exit out of Afghanistan. Now they're going to own Afghanistan, and it's going to be really hard for Americans to see the pictures that come out of there of people who are murdered, assassinated by the Taliban simply because they were helping out the United States.
Yeah. Only the second time that I've heard the fact that they could have waited until winter. And you're the second person I heard that from.
Yeah.
Too bad Biden didn't know that,
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I've been thinking since this all started out, and I'm thinking, boy, I hope Biden doesn't decide now that he's going to use the SEAL team, because the SEAL team goes in sort of, undercover, and Biden's relationship with the SEALs is not very good, because he's the one that, showing how smart he was because he was the vice president, actually told people that it was SEAL Team 6, I guess it was.
Yeah,
Had to, look what I know.
Yeah.
One time he said, you know what's underneath my feet right here where I'm standing? This is the top secret. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up.
Why do we deserve this?
Exactly. Well, and the thing with our special ops, they do an incredible job. these are some of the people that are also retiring as soon as they can to get out of the military, because the military under Joe Biden and SecDef Austin has become the woke police, and they have to, be completely versed in gender studies and trans and gay people, and that's their new mission, and climate change. So you're getting our best fighters that are also leaving the military, and it's really hard to train these guys. It takes a long time, as you know, to train to be a SEAL, and it's the best of the best that make it to that level, and they are the first boots on the ground when they go in. And to try to fight these wars with just our SEALs or just our Rangers, that's just something that America can't afford to do right now, because the ones we have now are extraordinarily tired from doing so many tours. Many of them probably couldn't even count on both hands how many tours that they've been through. So we need to have rebuilding within our military. But if we're going to continue down this path, and we see what happened in Afghanistan, who wants to sign up to fight for the country where it's like, okay, we're just going to retreat? And I thought it was pretty funny. I was watching Tucker last night, and he made a quip, like asking the generals, when was the last war you actually won? Because the war is being fought by General Milley and his crew, General McKenzie. They're losing wars. General Petraeus, he lost war. We don't have any winning generals that have won wars, and that plays a huge factor in the reason why we were in Afghanistan for so long. It took 8 days for the Taliban to retake the country. We were there for 20 years. The Ruskies were there for 10 years. What did we not learn from all of that? And how can a 21st century military be beaten by a backward 14th century military? So there's got to be some hard questions that are asked, and there's going to have to, be some, heads that need to roll on this, because this was something that cost taxpayers more than $2 trillion over 20 years. Just think what that could have built here in the United States.
I know you're just a young girl, but if you flash back to the end of the Vietnam War and the scenes of the United States, trying to get as many people as possible on board the aircraft carriers and things like that, they were actually pushing the helicopters off of the aircraft carriers so they would make more room, and I'm thinking, wow, there goes another $1 billion or whatever. But
no, I know, and again, like when you see what the veterans that come home, and especially with the 20 years in the Middle East, we have a lot of lost limbs, we have a lot of TBI, we have a lot of PTS, and while the veterans organizations are doing better on that front, they're not even nearly close to what they need to be doing for our veterans that are coming home, who sacrificed their legs, their arms, their brains, some of their sanity, so to speak. We're not taking care of them. So what are these young people that are considering making this choice? What are they doing? The young people now that are getting in, they're getting in to go to college. And then as soon as they are able to separate from the military, they're getting out. So again, now we're paying all this money to train them, all the money for them to go to college. And then they're saying, yeah, I'm going to go out and work in the private sector. I'm not going to work in the military. This is going to have effect, especially on morale.
Yeah, and I flash back to President Obama. Remember when he was talking about a threat to the nation, soldiers returning back to the United States?
Yeah, well,
Boy,
well, and also we can also just say one other thing about Obama. When he came into office, he said we're getting out of Iraq because Afghanistan is the right war. That's a direct quote. Afghanistan was the right war. And it clearly was not the right war.
Well, you really see, the difference in parties, don't you, between Republican and Democrat. And, boy, I'm telling you. And the other interesting thing, we got a minute before the break, is the vice president, the world-famous Kamala Harris. When she first became vice president, they were talking about, where is she? Where is she? Oh, she's talking to all these countries. She's on the phone every day talking to different dignitaries in the countries. And then they said, would you make a statement about Afghanistan because they couldn't find Joe or Jill was hiding him or something? No, and she used a bad word, too. But anyway, basically she was telling them, no, I'm not going to make a statement.
Yeah.
You know, Amalia, if you want to be president, I said, you don't wait for the guy to get kicked out of office. You know, you got to be ready to step in there and act like you know what you're talking about.
Well, she's failed on every single front.
Day.
She's failed on every front and everything she's been tasked to do, especially with that southern border, which remains open. And now with Afghanistan fallen, now we have to worry about that southern border and how many terrorists are going to try to come across and avenge Americans for being in their country 20 years.
Had one today, you know, four people that were on the terrorist list apparently got in, you know. Yeah. But, got to move them somewhere. We'll put four in four different states, I guess. All right, we're going to be right back, wrap things up. Kimberly Dvorak. Remember the website, thekdreport.com, and you'll see this report and hear it a little bit later on, right there. Remember, I was always impressed how you went down to Cuba and went to Gitmo.
Yep.
And she managed to escape there and became a world-famous reporter.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah. Yeah, I was...
When I write your book, it'll be fiction.
Yeah, I was actually there, you know, and one of the, now the, you know, masterminds of the, you know, throwing out of the U.S. military in Afghanistan was actually released from Gitmo under President Obama, who traded him for Bo Bergdahl. So that's another stain on the Obama legacy. So yeah, that was there. I mean, yeah, and you know, going to Gitmo and hanging out with all the terrorists, it was like super fun. But yeah.
And what did like, I can't remember, was it 7 or 8, maybe 9 people that were killed searching for Bergdahl?
Yes, I believe it. I think it was either. I think it was 6 or 7. But yeah, and that was on him. And then of course,
AWOL, you know,
yeah, and then because he went AWOL, and then eventually it went through the military court system, and then he, you know, was, you know, court-martialed and that, and then he was pardoned, I believe, by Obama at the very end of it anyway. So I just, the whole thing with Afghanistan, and when you have people that are, you know, that actually are just, you know, going AWOL, you know, that's unacceptable. But that happened back under the Obama administration, and it, you know, that was a long time ago. I mean, we had a president in between, and now we kind of have a president that was with Obama. I don't know how much Joe actually did with President Obama, and maybe President Obama's the one behind the scenes pulling the strings here. One never knows. But what one has to do is say thank you to the troops, and I have to commend the rank and file troops that fought this war with valor, with everything that they had. They gave up their family life. They gave up, a lot of them, their limbs. They gave up everything to you know, fight for this country and for what this country believes in. They did a job. Their job was well done. And if they were able and to manage the war on their own the way they would have done it because they're on the ground, then we would have had a very different outcome here. But the blame for this chaos, this debacle, this embarrassment lies at the foot of the Obama administration, the Biden administration, somewhat the Trump, but not so much, but the military brass and the intel community that just would continue to put out false information to keep us in these wars. And finally, I can say this, that the military-industrial complex probably takes the lion's share of the blame here, because they're the ones that profited on this.
Yeah. With no wars, they're out of work.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you. Yeah, and hopefully all those records of the Afghanistans who helped the American soldiers and the Americans, you know, because they have records on them, hopefully they were destroyed. But I got a feeling a lot of them are still floating around.
I bet,
well, Kimberly, all out of time. Well, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
All righty. Thank you.
All right. Kimberly Dvorak, DVOR.